Hey you guys, welcome to my heat wave garden tour. I'm going to show you guys around the garden at all of the beautiful flowers and how they're holding up to this heat. It has been so hot, and this is a very new garden with lots of things that were just planted this year, and so I'm going to show you how things are holding up. So I have been extra diligent at watering all of my plants early in the morning. And everything is looking really good still, so I'm very excited about that. Got my hydrangeas and my petunias and vinca, gara right there. Got some roses with new growth. My baptisias are huge. Those bloom early spring with big purple spikes, and they're gorgeous. A great interest after they've finished blooming. Another hydrangea on this side. My Russian sage spilling over. More roses to mimic the other side. I've got white petunias over there. Globe arborvitaes, more vinca, more petunias. This is white alyssum. It doesn't do as well during this kind of heat. This side is actually doing better than the other side because it doesn't get nearly as much sun. It's more protected, but it looks pretty good considering. But we walk down, look at that. Isn't that so pretty? So you see the 4 hydrangea standards. The 2 that are bloomed out, I bought that way. The 2 that are just budded up, which you can't really see the buds yet, but at least in this video until I get closer, I bought them without any buds from 2 different nurseries. Planted them just a few weeks ago. They're doing really well. All of them are. So happy with those. I'm glad I decided to make that change. More bubblegum petunias, more vinca, more Russian sage, more alyssum. I added those annuals in the bed just to give some more color. I've designed this bed to just be purples, different shades of purples basically, and I've added a little bit of white with the white gara last year. But I've realized I don't really care for just having purple in the garden. I want some more variation. Rather than planting perennials of different colors, I wanted to try it out this year with just some annuals, and I'm liking it. So I probably will go in and edit this bed quite a bit in the future just to make it more of what I want it to be. So this is the view to the front of the house. I've got climbing roses on each of those columns. Pearly gates is the big one that you see closest to the door right there. I've got 2 more pearly gates that are much shorter. I've got a David Austin climber on that corner post, but it gets a lot more shade, so it's not growing nearly as fast. I got the baby on my hip while I'm doing this, so you might hear her make some noises here and there. That's the entrance up to our property. So over there you see our goat house. We added those 2 wings on. We haven't painted them yet. They're still kind of rough looking, but we'll get to that, and I think we're gonna add a nice porch and do some more landscaping over there around that. These roses that you see here, they're a fairy rose, and they just don't look super great. Like, the blooms are really pretty, but then the foliage and everything just looks really rough through the season. I had 2 of those in the bed. I pulled one out already. I left those. I think I'm gonna have to take them out. I'm just not thrilled with those at all. Let me see. I've got these hardy geranium, the Roseanne geranium. Just planted this year. I have some in some other beds that I love that are just second year, and they're doing really great. So I planted more on these beds, and they're gonna do fantastic and come back every year and bloom super long. But look at those. My gladiolas are gorgeous, and the chaste tree in the background is gorgeous. I've got the hollyhocks blooming. I've got more buds coming up on my roses. It's looking so pretty. I've been coming out into the garden really early in the morning, like I was saying, because of the heat wave. I've wanted to make sure that everything's getting lots of water, but I've also been pruning and cutting things back, and it's all just looking so nice right now because of that. Got the butterflies flying all through the garden. My Bobo hydrangea is about to bloom out. It's got lots of buds. This is first year. All my Alaskan daisies. Then I've got this white yarrow mixed in with the daisies. Looks so pretty. White dahlias. I went all out with white. Since I started developing these gardens 3 years ago, I started with a lot of pinks. I had pinks everywhere, pinks of all different shades. And then I'm like, oh, that's too much pink. I need to add lots of purples. And then I'm like, oh, now I need to add lots of white. So I go like overboard with one color at a time and adding it in. And it's so funny that that's how I've been doing things. I'm not sure why, but that's my journey. But these gladiolas are gorgeous. Look at these. Oh my goodness. Gorgeous, gorgeous. And the chaste tree is just blooming out like crazy. I trimmed this heavily in the spring, early spring, and I thought, oh man, I shouldn't have done that much. It's late to flush out with leaves, but man, it made up for it with all these blooms. Goodness, I got cosmos in the background there, more Shasta daisies, these gladiolas. So what I've done here with these gladiolas is I also have some irises planted in the same area that bloom out early spring, and then the gladiolas bloom out early summer, and they have similar foliage, and so I think it just works really well to have them together like that. At least so far it has. I don't know if one's going to choke out the other or how that'll work, but I think they're both fairly aggressive, I would say, so maybe they'll play well together. I stepped off my garden path to back up in the yard a little bit. Look at that. That's just so gorgeous. I just can't even believe sometimes that I've started these gardens just 3 years ago. It's unreal. The grass is not mowed, but man, the flowers were just looking so good. I had to go ahead and show you guys while I was out here with the baby walking around. Oh, it's just so pretty. I'm going to show you my limelight hydrangea hedge right here. The sun is just starting to peek through with it. If you saw my last video, my June garden tour, it was an early June tour. These just had the tiniest little buds on them. But now they're getting much larger and they're about to really take off. These limelight hydrangeas, this is only their second year. I cut them way back early spring, and they are taller than me, wider than me. I have a hedge of 10 of them. Man, they're gonna be gorgeous when they all bloom. We've got our chicken coop right there, an apple tree. We had 2 apple trees. One of them died. Not sure what happened. We got to get another one so they can actually produce apples. But we didn't get that done this year. I meant to, just never did. So this whole corner right here, I'm going to expand. I might wait until the fall. I have a lot of plants I want to put here, but it's just so hot right now. But we'll see. I've got lots to do in that corner and I can't wait to work on that. Just got a sea of daisies, as you can see, lining the vegetable garden entrance. I've got a huge butterfly bush. I need to trim some of those off, but see the greenhouse in the distance between our garage and our house. That's the courtyard over there. We'll make our way that way here shortly. This is the path. I finally cut some things back so you can get through the path. Check out the amount of pollinators on this thing. Oh my goodness, it's just swarming with pollinators. Swarming. I love it. I've got another Bobo hydrangea that's gonna bloom out right here. I just planted it this year as well. I'm gonna have to dig up some of these Alaskan daisies so they don't stunt the growth of the hydrangea. I'd rather have the hydrangea there. I've cut back my foxglove, but look, I've got new growth coming, new flowers. Got a little bit of a bloom right here. I'm excited that these are gonna keep going. The pollinators love the chaste tree too. What's wrong? What's wrong, baby? Got another foxglove I cut back, but it's got lots of new growth coming in on it. So that's exciting. I know that that'll be here next year again. I'm glad I got some of the perennial foxglove. I think I have some biennials also, so I've been sprinkling seeds all over the place to make sure that I do get them to come back next year. Sadie girl, what are you doing? What are you doing, Sadie? She loves walking through the gardens. Sometimes a little too much, and she trumbles on a few things, but so I'm on the other side of the creek bed now. We just walked up that path. So you've got the gladiolus on the other side of the creek. Got wisteria growing up, the arbor. And cut back this yarrow too. It's got some new blooms coming. Got more delphinium and a rose transplanted in here that the Japanese beetles have been devouring. I see one right now. There is a bloom and they'll get it, I'm sure, before I can enjoy it. Got some more seed heads for the delphinium coming up. I think I'm gonna put a path in right here where we're walking through right now, because I cut through the garden like this so I don't have to cross the creek. We'll have a bridge eventually to cross the creek. However, I like being able to move on to this section of the garden. The rocks, I'm going to continue this way. I just haven't gotten there yet. And then we'll have the bridge, of course, going right there. Cut back the nepeta. So this is a view from the yard on this side of the house. Back to here, we've got the lemon coral sedum. We've got a white butterfly bush that stays small. I planted a bunch of vinca, white vinca, that I got on clearance to fill in the ground area. I've got a couple roses. They're putting on some new growth, but they're not blooming at the moment. I've got this pink knockout rose right here with a clematis vine growing behind it. It had some strange flowers this year. It's supposed to be a gorgeous double, and it just did not double. It had some weird growth, so I've got to figure that out. But I've got this rose of Sharon that is gorgeous. I just planted it last year, and it's put on tons of new growth and lots and lots and lots of buds. Ignore the hose behind this shot, but look at those blooms. I love those. I think they're so pretty. The double pink. It's just lovely. Now this is the bed that I just added, oh goodness, maybe a month ago. My husband dug and put us some water right here, and so we had this big old trench, and it was all clay and muddy, and rather than sow grass, I told him, I'm like, let's just go ahead and put a flower bed in here, and that's what we did. So I really took advantage of it, and I made it quite large. I would have done it even bigger, but I'm trying to restrain myself. I just planted this heuchera and the blue juniper, the weigela, all of that just went in the ground. I have a video where I was planting that. I just posted last week, I think, if you want to go back and see that. Look at this rose. This was a transplant from the backyard where we just put in the stone wall. But look at that bloom. So pretty. I love all the evergreen that I was able to get in here. It's going to make things so pretty this winter. I was turned on to little hotties. I've got, 3, 4, 5 of them in my gardens now. Just planted these. But they are going to be awesome. I watched another YouTuber who did a garden tour, and she said she had them planted on the side of her house in full sun all day long, and they withstood the heat. So I did that in one of the beds that gets full blazing sun that I'll show you momentarily. But on this bed, I planted these incredible hydrangeas. They're tiny, little bitty, but I struggled to find them. Nobody's selling them. I just think they're too popular, and I was glad to get them, even though they're tiny, but hopefully they grow fast. I've got some drift roses, pink drift roses. Another incredible. Those are the opening act phlox I transplanted from another area. Man, these things are amazing. I don't deal with powdery mildew. It's getting a little blurry. Let me see. Look at the blooms. I don't deal with powdery mildew. They are super prolific. They bloom like crazy. I just planted these here, transplanted these here, divided them, and they are just like nothing ever happened. They're blooming again. So I've got several throughout this bed. Another incredible hydrangea, another opening act phlox, another drift rose, and then I've got this bobo, oh sorry, not bobo, little hottie hydrangea on this end. So each end is flanked with the little hotties, and then I've got 3 of the incredibles going throughout this bed. It's gonna be amazing. This is a part shade flower bed, part shade to shade flower bed on the right of the goat house. And I started this and just hadn't really put much into it until this year. It had a few things, but I've added some hostas, I've added different hydrangeas. I've got a Gatsby Girl oak leaf hydrangea back there, I think is what it is. I've got the Skyview hydrangea right there. I've got a Bloomstruck back there. I've got some foxglove. Sorry, there's a bug on me. I've got some foxglove blooming right now. Some astilbe I planted. Bare root, I think. That's a hydrangea that's been in the ground for about 3 years now. That it was a stick. It was dying. It's an older style hydrangea. Now, if you saw the video where my chickens just kicked my rocks everywhere, they were tearing up my plants. They had gotten through the gate. It had a much larger grid pattern, so we had to fix that, and so far they've stayed out. I haven't finished my rocks around the border, but I've repaired the damage they caused. However, while we were in all of that, I went ahead and extended these flower beds because I was already working over here, and I had just picked up a bunch of plants on clearance. I got all of this Brunnera, 6 Brunnera, $1 a piece. I got some hostas, I got more hydrangeas on clearance. I mean, I went after it, and I didn't have a plan when I purchased it where I was going to put it exactly or when I was even going to get it in the ground. But after the chicken mishap, I was able to get it in the ground pretty quick. So excited with how this is going so far. I need to add more mulch, but I ran out. But I've got a Summer Crush hydrangea right here, which is what I have at the front door that you saw. And then this is Popstar, and I have 4 or 5 Popstars on the other side of my house that are doing great. So I'm glad I was able to get that. I think this is another Bloomstruck, and then some hostas, and then that's a viburnum that I planted bare root a couple years ago. So this is where I'm at so far with this bed, and everything's doing great, even with the heat wave. I'm just keeping it watered. We are going to make our way over to an area that's a little bit more shaded. The courtyard is in full sun right now, and it is too hot for that. I'm going to take you all down the front porch into the shaded area of the garden. This is the Pearly Gates rose. I love the color of the bloom. And that one is doing really good. This is just their 2nd year. I've got some things sitting here that I purchased on clearance, and I need to get in the ground eventually, but it's just too hot to try and do that right now. Another one of my Pearly Gates roses. I need to come in and wrap that around and let it keep growing up. It's grown a ton. So I'll do that maybe tomorrow morning. I've got 3 of the bloom-struck hydrangeas in this corner. They're doing okay, I guess. That one in the middle is the smallest right there. I've got another bloom-struck right here. This one I planted this year because the one that I put here last year died. I need to cut back those blooms to let it get rooted better, but I was trying to enjoy the blooms while I could. I've got an Olivia Austin rose right there. Got some lamium. It's super pretty when it blooms. This is one of my pop star hydrangeas. These were teeny tiny when I planted them. And then pop star down the way. The peony, it's got a really pretty bloom, probably the color of those gladiolus that we just saw. This one is another Olivia Austin rose. This bed was created last year. I didn't have anything out here until last year. I planted this Brennera. I've got 3 of those. I've got a hosta. This third Brennera was added this year. That's why it's so much smaller and not nearly as healthy looking. Got some boxwoods. Another hosta. I've got another climbing rose right here. I think it's the Gertrude Jekyll. I'd have to verify that. This is a new little seating area that we just put together this year. We've got the swivel chairs, the bar my husband just installed over here outside the kitchen window. Eventually we want to put a pond over here. That's the plan. But we just planted these emerald green arborvitaes to cover our gas tank. And then I've got a viburnum in that purple pot over to the left. I think it's opening act or opening day or something like that. It's supposed to be one of the earliest blooming. It'll have big white blooms. But this back side of the house, if you haven't watched any of our previous videos, has been an eyesore since we moved in 3.5 years ago, and we finally are starting to get it put together. It was just a nasty clay wall like what you see here, but higher. And my husband put in that stone wall, and it has just transformed the space, and we've been able to just really start focusing on making this nice over here. So I've got some more nepeta surrounding this climbing rose right here. I need a deadheaded. This bed needs lots of work. It's been neglected. We had a stone right here that we took out because that's no longer going to be a pathway to get onto our porch. And the gas tank fuels the fire pit that you saw in our seating area. Anyways, this little garden bed I did a video on. You can go back and watch it. I'll have that one linked. But it was nothing here at all, and this was all clearance perennials that I put in, and then 3 little tater tot arborvitaes. It's been exactly a week today since I planted this, and so many of the things are already popping new flowers and just looking healthier than they did when I planted them. And so this is going to be really pretty once we see it grow and flourish. My husband just built this deck just a couple months ago. Again, this has been a huge transformation on this side of the house. Here's the stone wall. We only brought it this far so far. He will hopefully continue down towards the gas tank. Sorry, my heat and air is running at the moment. We have stairs that are going to lead all the way up to the top of the hill there where it flattens out. I've got some plants sitting over here near the water so I can keep them watered. I've got a mock orange sitting on that stone I'm going to put in the ground. I dug up some phlox that you see sitting there. This is a strawberry Sunday hydrangea, I believe. It's just starting to get some buds. This white hydrangea I just put in this year, and check out these blooms. Oh my goodness. And it is holding up to the heat very, very well. This is a white wedding hydrangea by Southern Living. I've got some roses potted back here that I dug up. I moved these pots from the front and put the yellow roses on the front porch. This is our greenhouse we built 2 years ago. We're still working on the inside, but we're getting there. Got some more tater tot arborvitaes. I think I'm gonna plant these 3 here, and then I need 3 for the other side, but I stole them for that other flower bed. Here's another one of the white wedding hydrangeas. The blooms are so heavy that it is drooping, so I've had to stake it up a little bit. And again, it's their first year, so I think it'll get better. I've got a sting arborvitae. I think that's what this is. Yeah, a sting arborvitae. It's supposed to stay very slender and tall, more so than even the emerald green green arborvitaes. It's going to be a really great evergreen accent. I'm going to have one on this side and then on the other side of the greenhouse as well. So this courtyard looks really crazy at the moment. So the plan is to create more of a formal garden here. I have this table and chairs, but I've kind of divided them up to see like where I might want to put some bench seating, where I might want to put a fountain. So they're being used more as markers for me right now than an actual table, just because I'm trying to get a feel for what I want to do here. So the table location, I think I want to have a fountain or a small pond or something like a round, formal looking raised pond possibly. Or a fountain. I don't know. I want to have some kind of central element right there. Okay. And then where those chairs are, I'd like to have some benches or some seating, or maybe even those seats, and then have the table somewhere else. I'm not sure. I've got these topiary arborvitaes in pots right here that I'm gonna probably leave flanking. I want to build a stone wall to encapsulate the area just a little bit. I think probably stone. And where I have all of these pots, it's kind of like a marker to make an L shape back behind here of what I might turn into like a flower bed, and have it lined with boxwoods or globe arborvitaes or something of that nature. And then I've done the same thing over here. And so it's all just marking kind of what I'm wanting to do. Those are not what's gonna go there, but anyways, it's a work in progress. So I am impressed. It's looking a little wilty right now, but this is a first year hydrangea I put into this pot. It's the Blushing Bride. It gets 3 to 6 feet tall, 3 to 6 foot wide, partial shade. It's just now putting on the tiniest little bud. I've been watching and waiting for that. But I mean, this plant is super healthy. It's super big for being in a pot, and I'm very pleased with just the health of it, especially being the first year. So I'm excited to see it bloom out. But I've got a Fairytale Bride cascading white hydrangea in this pot, and it's all budded up. Another bloom-struck hydrangea. I need to cut back those blooms. I just potted this year. I've got a little lime hydrangea I planted this year right here. I did have a butterfly bush there. I didn't like it, so I just pulled it out. I've got 4 roses going across right here. They're doing me. This is only their 2nd year though. I've got some of the Alaskan daisies. I think they're just too big for this area. I'm probably gonna get rid of those, move them further out into the cottage garden. Try to make this more formal. This is one of the very first beds that I created when we moved in, and I had no clue what I was doing. I've ripped a ton of it out, and I'm trying to rework it. I just planted these 3 little haughty hydrangeas. That's what I was telling you about earlier. And the difference, if you can see, these 2 right here and here were 1 gallon little hotties, and this one in the middle was a 3 gallon. And the size difference and the way it's handling the water, all of that is so different, and it's interesting to get to see them grow together and mentally understand just the growth habit of these from one year to the next, because I'm sure, you know, this one in the 3 gallon is probably a year older than the other 2, and eventually they'll all kind of catch up and be similar. But anyways, I thought that was interesting. This is the south facing wall, and it is hot, blazing sun. So it's also interesting to see how these are holding up. They're doing really well, being that I just planted them. This is their 1st year, and it's hot, like crazy temperatures right now. Major heat wave, high 90s, and they're holding their own. I mean, I water them 2 or 3 times a day because I don't want to lose them, but they are holding up. And so that is super encouraging. I've got climbing roses. I got 2 Zephyrandrones to the left, and then I've got a Rise Up Lilac by Proven Winners on the right here. And then that takes us back to the front porch. So blazing hot. I am now fully in the sun, and it is crazy hot. So thank you guys for joining me on this heat wave garden tour, and I'm telling you, it is definitely a heat wave. I am dripping literally right now. So I'm gonna go inside and cool off and stay in for the remainder of the morning and afternoon, and maybe be back out late this evening to do some work if it cools off enough. But man, it's intense. But my gardens look phenomenal for being 3 years old, and so much of it being just planted even in the last few weeks, in the last few months this year. Things are holding up so well. And I do have drip irrigation. I've failed to mention that. I've installed drip irrigation in almost all of my beds. I am running that twice a day for 20 to 30 minutes. That's helping tremendously, because my plants were crusty dusty last year this time, and it wasn't even this hot. So super thankful. Highly recommend doing drip irrigation for sure. So guys, thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate you all so much. I hope that you like and subscribe to this video, and I'll see you next time. Bye.